Consultation Podcast Network.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Presents John Carpenter's The Thing. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from ColdSploitation.com, and I'm joined by my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Today is a very important episode. It's a special episode. And I'm not just talking about that because we're doing John Carpenter's The Thing, which we've wanted to do for a long time.
Wanted to hold off on it for something special.
That's right. Why do you think this episode's special, Martin?
It's John Carpenter's birthday the other day.
That's true. That is true. That's a special occasion for sure. It racked me up like 1,000 Reddit points. So I posted his birthday on there. I definitely I actually like almost tripled my account value by getting so many upvotes. But no, that's not what I'm talking about either. That's not why it's special. It's our 100th episode.
Oh, I was gonna say we've been getting the thing weather outside of late. So
that's true. Yeah.
Everyone get their Molotovs and flamethrowers and J&B Scotch ready.
That's right. No, it's our 100th episode. We're very excited to be here for 100 episodes for you. When we started out, we started with Spaghetti Western, and we've progressed so far from there. And
we still got Ennio Morricone. So
that's right. Yeah, we're returning to our roots with Ennio Morricone in this episode. But yeah, we're at 100 episodes, and that's a pretty compelling case for Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Not so much that it's lasted 100 episodes, because let's be honest here, we're not like trying to pull in ratings or anything like that. But it's more so impressive because we've stuck around for 100 episodes. We're like, yep, we'll do 100 episodes. This is it. Yeah, we're calling it quits after this.
Packing our bags.
Nah, just kidding. Can't do that. No, we've got too many Marvel and DC movies to cover. We can't call it quits yet.
What about the Dark Universe?
That's right. Oh, well, I don't think that's coming around again. So, we did the one and only Dark Universe. Yeah, we should have called it quits right there. Well, we finished something, so that's it. We're done. No, but we've wanted to do John Carpenter's The Thing for a while now. And we wanted to save it for a special occasion. There's just something about it. We enjoy watching it quite a bit.
We both have a great appreciation for John Carpenter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Film and music wise.
It's one of my favorite John Carpenter films. I won't say it's my favorite because Halloween is my favorite.
Oh, why'd you have to say that? I was going to pose that question at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. There goes that. Well, you'll have to, in the interim, while you're just sitting there, think of another question. No, but I will say that, in terms of John Carpenter's filmography, I will say that I would say it's my second favorite film in his filmography. How about you?
It's a toss-up, really, between Halloween and The Thing, probably.
I mean, I'm right there with you, because Halloween definitely edges out just because of my obsession with Halloween in general.
I like sci-fi movies more. So.
And this is a really great,
I would say a terrific modernization of a classic 50 sci-fi film.
That really brings up a good point for me too, because I've been reading H.P. Lovecraft and going through the new annotated H.P. Lovecraft, but that's been compiled by Leslie S. Klinger, and in it he mentions in certain Lovecraft stories, he's like, well, this is really where Lovecraft was beginning his science fiction stage, and it's interesting because his science fiction stories are still pretty deeply rooted in horror. And I think you get that quite a bit with The Thing, because yes, this is a science fiction film, but it's also pretty deeply rooted in horror. And so you really have that crossover between, you can tell where they're crossing over to. It's not like, well, there's one and then there's the other. No, they intersect. There's not like a moment where it's just like completely horror or it's completely science fiction. It's kind of interesting in that regard too, because in general, like when we talk about genres like that, we kind of don't really use them interchangeably. Like this is a horror science fiction genre. It's not really, it's more so like, well, this is straight up horror with sci-fi elements, or this is straight up science fiction.
This is a perfect blend.
Yeah, this one is really a perfect blend. So, it kind of strikes me because it does seem, sort of Lovecraftian in that sense of having first of all, the science fiction horror element to it, but then also, a being that's really difficult to describe. So the thing really is you can't really describe it easily because it doesn't really have a specific shape. You know, we kind of get like the body horror aspect of it, but we don't really get a specific shape to it. And that's very Lovecraftian in the fact that Lovecraft loved to just be like really lazy with his descriptions. He'd get really into it with the, adjectives and stuff like that. But when it came down to it, it's like basically boiled down to, this is really too difficult to describe in modern English language, so I'm just not going to.
Well, at least he's not trying. Dickinson overloaded his works with being wordy.
Yeah, that's true.
Just read A Tale of Two Cities and be like, easy on the verbiage.
Well, Lovecraft is very wordy too. I actually, one time I was doing a reading of a Lovecraft story for a podcast. They were going to do these episodes of stories that were within the public domain. So I did a reading for them. I don't think that episode ever came out. I don't think the show ever came out. But I did the Rats in the Walls, and it was so difficult to actually read that out loud because I really found myself getting breathless because the sentences are so long. They're so constructed. There's so much alliteration.
You're reading T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland aloud.
It's really difficult. I encourage anybody to just like go back and try to read Lovecraft out loud. It's fucking difficult. It's very difficult.
How many people do you think actually read Lovecraft or just kind of like have hopped on the bandwagon?
I feel like a lot of people, they know Lovecraft. They know about Lovecraft. They've heard a lot about him.
Well,
Stephen King.
Well, say mainly because of Cthulhu.
Right, Cthulhu mythos. Stephen King, for sure, has, kind of brought Lovecraft's name into his art a bunch, like, as he's been influenced by him. So I would say, some people, adventurous people, probably have gone out and actually read some Lovecraft, but for the most part, I think people just recognize that anything to do with like cults or elder gods or, things like that, that's just specifically Lovecraftian. So when you say the thing is kind of Lovecraftian, I think a lot of people would kind of not really see the resemblance because they would be thinking like, well, it's not like Cthulhu. It's not like a elder god sort of thing. But in the same sense, Lovecraft did a lot of stories about things from other worlds coming to this earth, embedding themselves in, and then sort of like poisoning things as it, as this history unfolded, and then sort of poisoning that area of Earth. Like The Color Out of Space is a great example of this being from outer space coming to Earth, landing in a specific area, and then poisoning that whole area. And then eventually, that seeps into the ground and it comes out as a color that's really undefinable because it's not within the English language. We can't really define this color. It doesn't look like anything that we have. And that's very, that's a lot like The Thing in that sense of something coming to this earth, being embedded in it. And then for years and years and years, it kind of just festers until it eventually comes out. So The Thing is Lovecraftian. I'm going to say it right now before we actually get into the discussion of the film itself. I find it very Lovecraftian.
I will say, I haven't read Lovecraft. I am the layman when it comes to that. I have a very basic understanding. I do mean a very basic understanding. Mm-hmm. As I've said before on the podcast. When it comes to reading novels, not really my thing.
Not your thing.
I'd much rather read a history book.
Yeah.
Or the newspaper. Something like that. Very dry, I guess, in that sort. Which is amazing why like something like movies and music like strike me so. But novels, I just honestly can't really get myself into. But anywho, going off of that, I'll say one of the great things that I love about this film is taking the original, The Thing from Another World, and like I said, one, doing a remake with the best intentions and doing it the way like a remake should be done. with love, care, and making the film better.
Yeah.
And in that sense, what's the big turnaround from the original to this? In the original, it's more like a stereotypical sci-fi 50s film. By the end, like, the crew there is all gung-ho, let's work together, to try to take on, the Thing.
Yeah.
Here, they turn that on the nose. It's paranoia. Anybody could be the Thing. We don't know. And what's that a lot like? Another great remake that did the same thing that we've also covered on this podcast before. 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Which is another example of a great remake of taking the original idea, modernizing it, and changing enough things and doing enough things different to make it interesting, different, and worth standing on its own.
I'll leave that till the film discussion itself, but there are a lot of similarities to the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. A lot of similarities here. I don't know if that's an intentional thing or if it was kind of
I think the story's
they just share they share the same type of storyline, but
the only difference is one's in a secluded place and the other one's in a civilized area.
Yeah, but there are a lot of similarities between those two films. The one other thing too that you mentioned with this being a remake of one of John Carpenter's favorite films, it's kind of surprising that Thing from Another World is one of John Carpenter's favorite films. It's kind of a very random choice from a smattering of 1950s sci-fi films. That's like saying, for whatever reason, The Giant Gila Monster is your favorite 1950s film. It's just a very random decision. I wouldn't say
like them.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say that anybody now could really understand why this film in particular is John Carpenter's favorite film.
Even ones that them is a really big one from the genre.
Yes,
but even still, if someone was to say the 1953, The Day the Earth Stood Still was
exactly
even from the time when Carpenter was a kid, and that'd be something you can really latch on to. For memory wise, but even still, I'd probably have really.
Yeah. I think this more so has to do with nostalgia than anything else, because I wouldn't say that's a very well-regarded film anyway. Not that it's not well-regarded, but that it's never really made its way into mainstream cinema where people are like, yeah, I love that film. There's overwhelming consensus that it's a great film.
Well, it's become like the 1950 sci-fi, movies like that become quite outside of literally probably The Day the Earth Stood Still and them. They mainly it's okay. It's always just some random nuclear MacGuffin,
right? Exactly. They're
then,
more so just well known now for the nuclear element to them, either the nuclear element or the outside invasion element. Of the paranoia of that time period.
And that's actually a great point too, because in those films, the paranoia comes from not with the group within. But the invaders, the outsiders, so Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like the outsiders. And then in The Thing, it's the Thing itself. Here, though, it's turning it on its nose. It's taking that idea and then implementing it across the entire film.
Right.
Across the entire cast.
And that was indicative of the time period, too. So the 50s, the invasion was, the
Russian threat.
Outside threat was really apparent to everybody seeing the film. So in some ways, and I don't know how many people would actually pick up on the underlying metaphor for it at the time, but in a lot of ways, it was just indicative of that time period of being afraid of an outside threat. And, that was always there. And so that fear was easy to interpret. But here in the 1980s, that fear had kind of slipped aside. There wasn't really a fear of the outside at that point. There was more of a fear of the interior elements. But I think that John Carpenter does a really great job of making the Thing into something different and really picking up on the metaphors of an interior threat, of paranoia within, a group, to make it different from, his own inspirations.
And he's not the only one, too. I mean, I know Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 78 was in the 70s, but if you think about late 70s to the mid 80s, good time for rebooting 50s cult classics like that, because you also had The Blob.
Yeah.
Which I never saw the 80s Blob, but I've heard good things
80s
about.
Blob is great.
Which I've heard.
I have it.
Very good things about. Also, another film we done, Cronenberg's version of The Fly.
Sure.
You know.
Yep.
Take again.
Yeah, you have to think at that point. It's almost like
the directors of the time who watched those films.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're almost entering into the next generation of that with all the remakes that we have now of people who are like, well, I watched Prom Night back when I was a kid. It really made an impression on me. I would like to remake it. I think we've lost some of the magic of actually doing it. Like now it's more so like, well, I think that could make money.
Oh yeah.
Back then it was more so like I was really influenced by this. I want to put my own spin on it. And so that's
and the studio's just like, here's this amount of money. Make sure you make that money back.
Exactly.
And we'll call it a deal.
Yeah, because I mean, there were definitely limitations there with like, well, here's the budget that you have. Make it work. If you're going to make this, make it work. And
which studios today are very much go for the safe bet. That's why you see as much as we complain about it, the sequels and remakes and the stretch of ideas of originality are, few and far between. Because again, they want the safe bet. They want to make their money. So what's making money? Superhero films. We'll just keep pumping those fuckers out. Why? Because we know people are going to see them. And until they stop going to see them, we're going to just keep doing it. Same thing with like Star Wars. I personally don't want a Star Wars, as I've said before, as a huge Star Wars fan on this podcast. I don't want a Star Wars film every year. You're diluting the product. But they're going to keep doing it. Why? It makes a shit ton of money. Yeah. Last Jedi got panned by a lot of fans, which I still even haven't seen.
Right. That's how little you care about it now.
But at the same, I do want to see it.
You gotta see it, but
I haven't had like somebody to go with to see it. But at the same time, I mean, they're gonna keep doing it, even though it's getting like the fans are like, I don't like it. You're still gonna go see it. Why? And they're gonna still make another one
because you're compelled to.
Because people are compelled to. Everyone bitched about by the end of the, prequels. They're terrible. You still went and saw it. You still made Lucasfilm a shit ton of money.
Yep.
And so.
Even though Solo seems like it's going to be a clusterfuck, with all the directors that have been on it, and
who's on it now?
Ron Howard.
I know Ron Howard was on it, which I was kind of surprised.
But people are still going to go see that. But anyway, I think what we're getting at is that we're kind of entering into that new territory, or repeating territory of filmmakers remembering things from their own childhood, remaking them.
There's kind of a smattering of films like from the past 20 years. I would have a very hard time of seeing people like anything of the past 20 years that people are like, oh, we should remake that.
Yeah, I would say there are some outliers. I'm just
saying the way it is today. I know remakes are are in vogue, but I mean like, do you really see like if someone's like who's like a horror and a slasher director, right? Do you really see them going like, what I really need to remake? Urban Legend.
Yeah.
I know what you did last summer. It's like out of all of them, it'd be Scream. It's already getting done on MTV though.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, and in some ways, I could see it happening as a revitalization of the slasher genre. But yeah, you're right. Like, but then you run into the dilution of that being, we have all these remakes already.
Not only that, the big thing is the whole supernatural thing with like Paranormal Activity and like the POV stuff. So I mean,
it's hard to say.
I mean, there's a lot of films I'm trying to think off the top of my head from the past like 25 years that people would literally be like, and a studio would at this point greenlight like, we got to do that.
Yeah,
I
can't think of very many. That's for sure. But I'm sure there are some that will eventually see the light of day.
I mean, I guess maybe you could say that with with the continuation, the unnecessary continuations, like Jurassic World 1 and 2.
Sure,
now. It's like
Saw is the new Saw was basically you would say a soft reboot, I guess. Soft reboot, but still like
that makes more sense though, because again, like a slasher film, you can always just reboot, revitalize. Like Terminator Genesis, that's kind of like who, what, why,
right? Yeah. And by the way, too, good time to bring up Saw 9 on the horizon.
Did Jigsaw even do well? I mean, I imagine it did well enough, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, you know what? And at this point, I'm so invested in the series.
You're like, you got to see it.
I will see it because I actually, when we reviewed it, I didn't think Jigsaw was that bad. But
Jigsaw was fine. I would say Jigsaw was fine. It was, it was kind of how I feel about like Wonder Woman. It's like it was fine. It was all right. I guess I would watch it again. I'd see the next one.
I would probably actually get on DVD or Blu-ray just to watch it again and see like
how it shapes up again. Yeah. And also it had to have done pretty well because Dead by Daylight has hinted that the next killer in their DLC pack is from Saw.
So it's gonna be Jigsaw?
It's hard to say because as a character,
he doesn't.
As a killer, Jigsaw himself would be a really strange.
Have Billy just in a fucking
exactly
wheelchair,
it's probably going to be something like a guy in a pig mask or something like that. But the hints that they've released, which they just released a teaser trailer, was of like a bear trap, like a reverse bear trap from the first, and it looked like the room from Saw. So interesting. I don't know how that concept will work within Dead by Daylight, but those are the teasers right now.
I know we've gotten a little off the beaten path here, but I did think of a modern.
Well, it's still our intro, so we're not technically talking all about the thing right now.
It's a special 100th episode. So.
That's right. We can talk about whatever we want.
But no. I will say one of the films of recent times that have probably come around and totally improved on the original. It.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a lot of people have this is good too, because I did want to bring this up a little bit for the 100th episode of like what our favorite episodes were, what we've done in the past, stuff like that, retrospective sort of thing. So this is good because we did it not too long ago for our Halloween remake-a-ween special.
And that seems like just yesterday we went and saw that.
I know, it does. It does really. But interestingly, a lot of people have rose-colored glasses about the 1990s It. They remember it fondly. And I think that has something to do with the age that they saw it at. Because, sure, if you were younger, seeing it on TV, the miniseries,
probably scary.
Pretty scary. Going back to watch it now, I think a lot of people will be very disappointed in what they remember it being. Because it's, first of all, you have to invest that time. It's like a fucking 6-hour miniseries. So investing the time is not as easy as it once was because everybody was sitting down in the 90s to watch TV at that point. Because at the water cooler the next day, if you didn't catch the first part of the It miniseries,
you're either watching that, Seinfeld, or, what the fuck's Twin Peaks.
Right,
in 1990s.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch the It miniseries that night, well, then you're going to be missing out at the water cooler the next day. But I think now, like, a lot of people have rose-colored glasses about it, thinking back, but they haven't really gone back to watch it. If you go back to watch it, it's really
doesn't hold up.
No, it does not hold up at all.
God, that 90s style, early 90s style.
Yeah, it's
like
very
John Ritter
apparent.
with like a slight mullet.
Oh God,
he's in the best shape of his life though in that. Which I mean, I know it's supposed to fit the role because his kid was the fat kid. But like, man, it's like that's John Ritter. Good Lord,
Yep. I mean, I think they did a really good job with it, and I am excited that it's 2-parter because it did allow them a lot of time with the just think about it. That first movie was 2 hours long, and pretty much needed all 2 hours of it to really hit all of the points that the story actually has for the kids, because we're talking about a 1,000+ page novel here of both kids and adults. So if you devote only like half of the movie, of just one movie, to kids and half to the adults, you're going to miss out on a lot of the aspects of that film. So to have it cut into 2 was a great idea. And yeah, they did a great job with it as a remake of that original. So now's a good time to bring up the question. What are some of your favorite episodes from the first 100 that we've done?
First one comes to mind, Mad Max Fury Road.
One of our popular episodes?
One, because I still think it is, to this day, the greatest action film ever made. It's still one of my favorite episodes of all time. I do look back fondly at the Saw retrospective.
Even though at the time we had a very difficult...
It's more just because I'm glad I finally got to experience all of Saw, because I went into Saw never seeing any of the films before. Obviously, I knew everything, like the general gist of the films, but I was never interested in seeing the films.
I feel like just that doing the Saw retrospective there was just grueling. It was just a grueling experience
slog
overall.
Like doing an episode a week, it was a total slog.
Episode a week, doing every Saw film every week is very difficult. I think it's even more difficult than doing them like in a 7-day period, because you have like the whole week to think about, like, next week I've got to watch the other Saw film that's pretty much the same as the one I just watched. At least if you're binging them, it's kind of like, first of all, you have the whole process of like all of the sequels going through, and you remember everything that happened between them. If you're doing it week by week over 7 weeks, you kind of start to forget some things that happened in the first few films. So I would say that it was less about the films themselves than the fact that it was just very grueling.
I will also say I did enjoy, too, when we did Dread. That's also another one of my favorite action films of all time, and I think it's great. And I wish to death that it would, get a continuation. I'm sure there's others that you'll probably mention. But I'm trying to for once be Mr. Positive, and I'm looking back on the episodes where I left, a movie like, yeah, that was really positive. I will say, just came to me, Terminator Genesis.
One of our first,
one of our longest, and
yeah,
that's a doozy, because that film was absolute garbage, and one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life in theaters. And filmmakers are lucky I'm cheap as fuck and will never walk out on a movie, no matter how terrible it is, because I spent the goddamn money on it. And that's almost as that and RoboCop the remake, which we also did as an audio commentary.
Yeah.
So I would.
That was our year anniversary.
2-year, I think.
Was it?
We did it this year, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, 2-year anniversary. Yeah, that's a fun one. That was a different experience for us in general, because
it's our first commentary.
It was a first commentary, and those are fucking difficult. That's why we don't do very many of them. Not difficult because like,
well, it's hard to think of something like every
yeah, as a audio, you have to in with not having the actual film audio available, you really have to have space to fill everything, and it's difficult to just have like constant running commentary, especially for a film that's very middling. RoboCop, and even so, like, I would say that it's not even one of those films that's bad where you can make fun of it. It's just like, you're just left going like, why? Just,
well, no,
why?
I felt like when I was watching it with you and our friend at the time, Dan, in the theater, who took a shit, for
about an hour through it.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, I think I had more to say when watching it, and like the second time, it's like, what's there to say?
Right. Yeah.
It's like I got it all out when I saw the film.
Plus, it's difficult because we hadn't seen it in a while, and that was our first mistake.
Yeah.
So you tried watching it while doing the audio commentary for the first time in like 4 or 5 years.
But that's something I can't. I can't like sit down and prep. I can't bring myself to sit down and watch that.
Not one of those. Not one of those. Maybe if we were doing the thing, I could prep for it. But
you get to sit and enjoy and pick it apart. And RoboCop was just like, why? Why are you doing this to Paul Verhoeven? Why don't you remake one of his bad movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Showgirls. Everybody loves Showgirls.
Yeah.
But
I would say one of my favorite episodes is the My Bloody Valentine episode, the original.
Oh.
Because that was the time when I introduced you to it, and you were like kind of receptive to it as a slasher film.
There's a moose loose about the hoose.
That was one of my favorites. We had a lot of fun with that. A lot of fun with the Canadian lingo and things like that. Sorry, Michael, my friend who works with me on closeplaytation.com. But
he liked my impression.
That's true.
So I mean,
yeah.
No. Oh, every time we do a Silent Night, Deadly Night.
That's right.
Oh, great.
That's right.
Warm Side of the Door from the first film is one of my... That film is only, like, as throughout... That's one of the first episodes we did, too, because we did that our first Christmas.
It was like the 13th or 14th episode, yeah.
That's, great. That movie just, like, grows in my heart every time I think of it.
Yeah.
Same thing as Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, not so much Part 3.
No, Part 3 is pretty bad, and did not have much fun with that one, for sure. What are the other... Let's see, what else did I have fun with? Well, I wouldn't say I had fun with it, but... Batman v Superman, we got a lot of mileage out of. Because we fucking beat on that one I would say probably a year later after we saw it, we were still mentioning it in episodes. Like,
what's funny?
Well, you know what? You don't do Batman v Superman.
You know what's funny too? We beat on that. It's the dead horse that we'll forever be beating here. But we hated Suicide Squad more than we hated Batman v Superman. We've gotten more jokes out of Batman v Superman.
That's true. I don't know why, but yeah, we have. One thing that's kind of an interesting note in our episodes is that at one point we did Fallout 4.
Our one video game.
Yeah, our one video game episode. Kind of a weird, like, now if anybody looked back through our 100 episodes, they'd be like, Fallout 4? Where did that come from? That was, I don't know. That was still kind of fun. I mean, we got a lot of mileage.
I'm the one that suggested it because I was playing Fallout 4.
Right, we were like playing it religiously at the time.
Spoiler alert, I still have not beaten it because you know what? I lose interest in it.
You got sick of it after a while. You should revisit that with an addendum and be like, actually, it's not as good as we...
It's the whole... That's the whole fucking settlement building crap.
Yeah.
And constantly having to go and like then defend settlements. I don't care. Here's your Gatling turret. Fucking defend against the super mutants yourself, you ungrateful Bostonians. I'm sick and tired of, like, I'm in the middle of trying to do a mission for the Brotherhood, and like, oh, no, it's annoying. Like, that's why I've never beaten it. Like, I've gotten like 125 hours into the game, and only up to like the Brotherhood just showing up, because I'm the person when it comes to RPGs. I nail out as many of the side quests as early as possible, because one, they're always, especially in Bethesda games, always more fun than the main storyline. There's not a main storyline from a Bethesda game I can think of that's interesting. It's all about the side quests.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Fallout 3, the main story, okay, you got Liam Neeson, it's great. It sucks. It's the side quests that are fun. Me and our friend Matt constantly quote the Mechanist and the Antagonizer from that one quest where the two people think they're a superhero and a supervillain.
Yeah.
We quote that all the time. I mean, I know New Vegas was done by Obsidian, which is why the main story's better, but, you know, the side quests are still, for the most part, the most fun of the game.
Yeah.
Skyrim, which I looking back now, I want to go back and play again. I want to get the, updated version and play it again, because I love Skyrim. The story's garbage, though. I literally did everything in that game except the story. And when I finally, like, after 300 hours in, do like everything you could possibly do in the game, I finally hammered out the story and was like, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Not worth it.
That was not worth it at all. But the game, but again, it's a great fun game because the side quests are fun. Everything else you can do in the world is fun. Same thing with Fallout 4. All the side stuff and like the exploring the bunkers. And I think that's where they missed out in Fallout 4. They don't have enough vaults.
No, yeah, there's only a couple vaults in it.
Like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, two of the funnest things to do in that game are exploring the vaults and the backstories of the vaults and what experiments went on there.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 is only like fucking 3 of them. It's like, well, you took one of the most exciting parts of the game and you neutered it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, we got this cool settlement building thing and Mass Effect like dialogue engine. Like,
we should do? We should throw out to listeners, like, would you want to hear more video game episodes? Because we've only done one of them.
No, I mean, it hasn't until you know what? We'll do
Red
one.
Dead Redemption
when
2.
Red Dead Redemption 2 comes, which
right.
but still my heart. I was looking on the PlayStation Store the other day, so I was checking to see how much Battlefield 1 Premium was. If it was still $50 fucking dollars. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, it is. Because you made me reinstall it because you were looking for friends to play, and I got sick of the game, but I have nothing really to play outside of that and Madden right now, which I bought Madden only because the Bills finally made the goddamn playoffs, but it's a different story. But anywho, I was looking and I saw Red Dead Redemption 2 like on the shop page, like hot new games coming out.
They had pre-order?
I haven't pre-ordered yet. I will, because I'm going to get it. I have nothing but the most faith in the world in Rockstar. But I saw on the page on the PlayStation shop, it says Q4 2018. I'm like, they delayed it again?
Jesus.
And then I looked online, it still says Q1, Q2 2018. I was like, oh, but still my heart. But I'm like, I think they'll probably...
they probably will get delayed.
Probably till this fall, Q3.
Yeah.
Because that's when GTA 5 came out. It ended up coming out in September.
Yeah, probably will. Yep. Hey, one other thing that we did that we've never really done before. TV specials. TV horror. We did that, I think it was like episode 9 or something like that. Never come back to it. We talked about like Walking Dead,
Ash
vs. Evil Dead. That was an interesting episode too, because it was a branch out from what we normally do, because we normally do one movie a episode.
Unless it's
like a retrospective or something.
Oh, I was going to say European and Vegas vacation.
Yep. So that was a little branch out, and we did sort of a whole rundown of TV shows, and we did a different one too for the first Halloween special, where we did all of our favorite films for Halloween. So, and in some ways, those are fun episodes because we don't have to like watch a specific film and go into it in detail. We can go into multiple films at once. So it would be fun to return to something like that in the next episode, like if we were doing like our favorite like killer animal films and our favorite, slasher films and stuff like that.
We already did that. It's called Long Weekend in Mako.
That's true. We did a 90s slasher month. That was awesome.
Oh, that's our best intro, I think.
That was a fun one.
I'll take all the full credit for that, coming up with that one. But that's our...
I think it's almost about time to do an 80s slasher month, because you can't do 90s. You can't just do a 90s slasher month.
We've already did that, kind of.
I mean, we did a few, but...
but we basically
I can think of a ton more that we can do.
Oh, well, I mean,
the Burning, the Mutilator, Just Before Dawn. See, there's 3 right there thrown out. Absolutely.
Another one people probably don't know, because I don't think it shows up on our feed, is when we did Friday the 13th Part 1 through 3 for...
it doesn't show up on our feed because it's not technically part of our show. Because it's part of the J Movie Talk podcast. But yes, we did. We did Friday the 13th, parts 1 through 3 for J Movie Talk podcast.
For his Friday the 13th retrospective.
Absolutely. Check it out.
We got a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah. Still up on the J Movie Talk podcast show. So definitely check that out. We'll give him a shout as when we post this episode. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And again, that's another episode that's a little bit different because we did 3 movies in one. That was tough because that takes a lot of preparation to do a 3-movie episode.
And not like that, by the time we get to the third one, it's like, yeah. Okay, now the 80s have been gone full swing. You can tell by the outfits they're wearing.
Yeah.
All
right, what's your least favorite episode?
That we've done, or like the movie?
I would say we love all of our episodes. I'm saying the movie.
Okay. That's pretty easy, actually.
What do you got?
Mako's one.
Okay, all right.
That was
the whole experience was miserable.
Mako's one of the worst films I think we've ever done.
That was a tough one because there's not much to say about it. It's just like, well, it's bad.
Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad.
All right,
those.
Yeah. And I know another one that you're not saying.
And I'll go stereotypical and say Terminator Genesis.
Okay. All right. I know another one that you're not saying that you're going to agree with right away. Leprechaun.
But we had fun with that. No,
we had fun on the episode.
But watching the movie, it was not fun. But with the actual episode itself, because I'm also thinking about like my tone too. Because because we did Troll 2 early on.
Yep.
And it's actually one of our great episodes too, because we got a
actress retweet.
Yeah, so made us feel special.
That's right.
But no, Troll 2 is that's like an enjoyable bad film. But like Mako and Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman and Terminator Genesis they were bad movies. I got to have fun ripping them, but at the same time, it's like the whole experience is just like a miserable.
Yeah.
Just like ugh.
Yep.
If I had to think about the Saw retrospective too, as much as I like it and the fact that I did it, looking back on the whole slog of 2 months of getting through and the totality of it. By the end, I was tired of the films. By 5, I was like, can we wrap this? Like, this is going on too long.
It's tough. It's tough to do a film a week like that, for sure. Yeah, but I would say probably my least favorite to watch was Leprechaun.
Leprechaun 2 at least had the great music, and Michael McDonald, for sure,
fucking really elevates it.
Cameo.
Yep. We've got Leprechaun 3 to come, too.
Yeah, this year,
We've got Leprechaun 3, so that'll be fun. And then we're moving into just gems of territory for the next St. Patty's Days with Leprechaun in space, Leprechaun in the hood.
Is in the hood first or space?
I think it's Leprechaun in space, and then I think it's Leprechaun in the hood, and then Leprechaun in the hood 2. I think. If I remember correctly.
Poor Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Just take that idiot broad money and go.
Just get out while you can.
Hang out with Carl Pilkington.
Anything else you want to say about our retrospective before we take a break and do a quick recap of what we drank today?
No, I think that's about it.
I think that's it. We covered everything. So if any of the things that we brought up doesn't sound familiar to you, go back in our
check it out
history and check them out. Yeah. And it's fun to go back and see, like, the early episodes, we were really trying to find our way. The middle episodes, we had kind of found out like how we do things, but some of the quality was not as good and things like that. So it's just interesting to go back and see what we've done and how we did it. So
and how we've grown.
How we've grown, and if we haven't grown, let us know. At Blood
you guys still suck.
Yeah, that's right. At bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. If you don't like what we're doing, let us know so we can change it. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk pretty quickly about the beer that we've got on the show. So stay with us. All right, so what do we got on the show today for beer? You brought it.
It's a beer we haven't had in a long time.
Long time.
Very long time.
Yeah.
God, it's got to be like 7 years now, actually.
Well, we're in 2018. We graduated in 2011.
So 6 years.
So, yeah, about 6 years.
Because Sarah was still in college. Yeah, we had... it's a beer I got because in the early days of starting to, branch out into fanciful craft beers and whatnot, I saw in Beer Advocate, Duvel was rated at the time, and I don't know if it still is or not, like the highest rated beer on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I gotta try this. And luckily, our one store happened to have a 4-pack of it. It was like $32 for that 4-pack. Crazy. But I got it anyway. And then we had it. We were not feeling it that much. Didn't like it at all. As our one friend described, it tastes like pepper, banana, onion juice. Yeah. Now, 6 years later, we are much more knowledgeable, especially when it comes to Belgian-style beers.
Refined beer drinkers.
Developed a more sophisticated palate. And I thought, it's a special episode. Let's do something special. We'll try the Duvel.
That's right.
Because Duvel also owns, I don't know if people know this or not, but they own one of our local breweries around here, Ommegang.
Yeah.
They own Ommegang, which specializes in Belgian-style beers.
And you can definitely taste the influence within Ommegang's beer and Duvel. They definitely match in a lot of ways, especially with like the Belgian
style,
hop
the Belgian strong style.
Yeah, they get it just right.
So, yeah, I bought a nice 750 milliliter bottle of it because it doesn't have the ounces on it. And that's what we had for today.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said at the time, we really weren't into it at all.
No, I remember being very much like what am I drinking?
Yeah, there's part of it that's like you definitely still get sort of a banana-y, fruity flavor to it. Definitely still a peppery flavor, but what really struck out to me at this time was the sweetness of it.
I didn't really get as much as a banana note this time around.
No, not as heavily as the first time that I remember having it. I think the banana actually comes from just the Belgian
malts
in the beer. Is that it kind of tastes banana-y, and now that we've been more accustomed to Belgian style, the banana is kind of like downplayed. And that's almost why I can now drink Hefeweizens too. I can drink Hefeweizens.
I haven't really gone out of my way.
Right.
Outside of UFOs, which I like, their Hefeweizen isn't really banana-y, so
No.
I would totally
I
say.
accidentally had one when I was on vacation last year, and I got this Cloud Splitter, and it was actually turned out to be Hefeweizen.
Yeah,
and
you said it was supposed to be an Oktoberfest.
Yeah, so they called it. Yeah, but I thought it was drinkable. It was it doesn't bother me as much anymore, and I think it's just because of the refinedness and just having multiple beers like that, you kind of get used to it, and on your palate, it's not as I would say it's not as affecting as it used to be. So for the Duvel, I think it's pretty good. It's not my favorite style of beer in general, anyway. So I would say I was slightly impressed with it. I think that Duvel does a pretty good job of making the Belgian Strong Golden Ale. And it's very flavorful. It has a nice head to it. It's very like champagne-like, which is why it comes in that 750 milliliter bottle.
It doesn't have the cork in it, though.
It does not have a cork anymore.
It used to. It was weird, too, because the Almagang bottles, those big, champagne-style bottles, they still do have the cork in them. So why Duvel's just got the pop top now? I don't know. But it did used to come in, with the cork in.
Yeah. But it's definitely a heavy 8%.
Can you
I feel it.
Yeah.
For sure. And we did start out with a Brown's Black Cherry Stout, too, which is also an 8%
I didn't feel the 8% on that so much, but...
Yeah.
But no, I will say I like it, and I'm glad I revisited it, because it's actually... I really enjoy it.
I think it's good. Yeah.
A Belgian strong ale is kind of more like an up the ante saison. Like it takes
It is, yeah, basic. Yeah.
A saison is light, fruity, but yet it's got that Belgian malt to it, which isn't like bready, but it's again like you said, fruity, clovey, peppery, and it takes that the refreshingness of a saison and ups the alcohol and ups the flavor a little bit on it too, to give it a bolder, stronger profile.
Sure.
And I will say, because I love saisons, Almagang's Hennepin's one of my favorite beers. And I will say, I greatly enjoy it. You're right, it does taste a lot sweeter than I remember it. Even though it's got those peppery notes to it, it's still pretty sweet tasting and a very enjoyable beer. I gave it on Untapped a 4.25. I thought it was really good. Now, would I go out of my way to buy it all the time and drink it as like a nice refreshing beer? No. Well, because it's 8.5% alcohol. So.
It's 8.5%, and it's too expensive for that. You could get Almagang and really
get a 6-pack of it for the same price.
Exactly, and be having basically, a little bit lighter, but still the same flavor profile for the same price to get more for it. But yeah, I'm not like farmhouse ales aren't really my favorite types of beers, but I do enjoy them at times. Like they're good for specific times, and I gotta say that drinking this Duvel, I got through it very quickly, and I enjoyed it quite a bit more than the first time I had it.
We killed that bottle.
Oh,
I will say the only downfall of it is the head on it grows ridiculously quick. I barely poured any to top my glass off, and it ballooned from like 3/4 of the glass to just overflowing and spilling all over the place. So that's the only thing. Great, we didn't have the tulip glass that you're supposed to have with it, but I don't really believe in that nonsense, that much anyway. I'm not that.
It wasn't in the glass long enough to warm, where you would need the tulip style. So. No, I would definitely get it again. The first time we had it, I was like, no, never getting Duvel again. Not trying that again. But now, as a refined taster, I would say that it's definitely one of the better beers that I've had. And especially if you're looking for something different, you don't want an IPA anymore. You don't want just like the regular seasonal beers. Grab yourself a Duvel.
Get yourself a nice Belgian strong ale.
That's right. And it doesn't have to be Duvel, because that's expensive. It's on the high end side of getting a Belgian style beer. But get yourself an Almagang or, something akin to it that, may not be specifically Duvel, but is within like the Saison style or something like that. Very good. Anything else you want to bring up for beer talk before we head right into the thing?
No, I think we should get into
I think we should get into the thing.
Got a lot to talk about.
That's right. That's right. All right. So 1982's The Thing from John Carpenter. First of all, very important that we do this because it is John Carpenter's birthday. It was yesterday. And, I think he would be proud of us to cover The Thing rather than some of his other films that he does. And for one thing, too, I love The Thing, but I haven't revisited it that often. I watched it for the first time a while ago, and then I've seen it a couple times here and there. One time when Scream Factory re-released their Blu-ray with a 4K transfer, and then now again. But I would say that I still have not seen it enough. Like, I haven't seen it as much as Halloween, or The Fog, one of those styles, those other films in John Carpenter's filmography.
I would agree. I as much as I enjoy the film, I haven't seen it nowhere near as much as, say, Halloween or Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, and it's not for, I wouldn't say that it's because of like any conscious decision that I've made. It's just more so that
it's not played that often on TV for one.
It's not played that often. I'll be honest, I never really caught it when I was a kid or anything like that. It wasn't something that, you would see on TV very often. Probably partially because of the special effects in it are very hard to, like, get on TV without doing some cuts. And
I actually don't think this film would be that hard to censor, really.
Well, I think
there's only a couple where I'd be like, okay, you could.
I think maybe, like, back when we were kids, censoring was a little bit more intense. Now some of the other channels like FX or something like that would probably get away with playing it as is, but without, obviously censoring some of the curse words. But I think maybe back then, for whatever reason, or maybe it was the licensing issue. I don't know, but it just never really got played. I never really saw it on TV as much. So it was actually kind of late that I saw it. I think it was in college that I saw it, actually. I think it was probably 2008 that I actually saw The Thing. So kind of late. And I remember even back then loving the film. Loving the paranoia that it creates. Because the films, I would say the special effects, they really pop. And that's probably one of the best things about The Thing that people remember. But one of the more important elements of the theme is the theme of paranoia that really comes out because of the small area that John Carpenter gives the audience. We're working in like a small Antarctic base. There's no one else around. It's very clear that, if they want to get out of here, they got to take a helicopter. There's nowhere else to go. I mean, they're stuck there, and that's pretty much it. That's all there is. And as you go through the film now, I noticed some of those details of like, this is how fucking stranded they are. Like, one thing that sticks out to me is that they had to give their own blood and keep it in a fridge just in case something happens to them where they lose blood and they're like, well, we got to give you a transfusion. Well, we got your blood on, in the fridge. That's how stranded they are. There's nothing, if anything else happens to them, they're fucked. And that's pretty much it. So that really stands out to me as in terms of like the small details that give the atmosphere of how stranded they really are.
Well, you get that just from the opening with the helicopters chasing the husky throughout,
just the panning over of like
just showing, how, the vast, wasteland, frozen iceland that is Antarctica.
Yeah, the emptiness of it all, and just panning over and you just see snow and snow and snow and snow and snow. And finally you get to a base, as the dog runs through just miles of snow. I think that they do a good job of immediately setting up, how out there and how distant this area is from the rest of civilization. And that becomes an important idea too, because as we see from the actually very sophisticated computer that they have for 1982 on this Antarctic base, which can calculate all kinds of things like the rate that cell growth would occur and things like that. And even accept the one thing that blows my mind is it accepts just commands, like type in just a random command like an Alexa would have now, and it responds. But what it shows is that, you know, if this thing ever gets to like a populated area, the entire population would be infected in like, I can't remember how much. It's like 2,700 hours or
no 27,000.
27,000. Yeah, because it's over the span of it's over.
Now, what do you find more hard to believe, that and the computer being able to generate all that information, or the fact in RoboCop they sell like that soft operating system, like 1 billion copies within day one?
Yeah.
I remember you being really miffed at that.
Yeah, right. No, I think.
Or no, it was Genesis.
Yeah, it's Genesis. Yeah, I think that. Well, I can kind of go along with it within this film itself with the operating system. You know, they're working on some mission within Antarctica. It's never really.
No, what they're doing there, we don't know.
We never really get a. Yeah,
it's just a U.S. base down there. It's like,
and as you say, there's a hodgepodge of people they got going on down there. It's like the
fucking A-Team down there. You got, you know, guy on roller skates who likes to Stevie Wonder, another guy that likes to smoke the doobies, the doctor, you know, the pilot, they're very much a clusterfuck of just.
Yeah, there's a guy that apparently is a part of a motorcycle gang.
Yeah, just like what? Oh, he's apparently like some scientist down there. Why is he wearing a jean jacket cut off and like, you know,
2 doctors?
Well, he just
you know, whatever, you know,
security officer. You know.
Very very top secret mission that even the viewers don't really get to know about. And then again,
but that's fine because you really don't even know. You just need to know they're there. They're a group, and you know. They're doing something sciencey down there.
Do you think that there is the idea that they have already kind of... There's an understanding that there may be something there? Is that the... Because we get, like, the Norwegian team is there, too. So there's got to be something there. There's something that they're working on specifically.
Well, no, because a lot of major countries have bases down in Antarctica, I think, to like just do scientific research on. So like you can learn stuff from Antarctica and see how that maybe translates to the rest of the world. I guess that's the vibe I got from it.
Maybe they're just interested in like 10,000-year-old ice and what that harbors.
Obviously now it would be, you know, global warming. That would be.
I guess I'm just saying that because McCready, whose name is literally Mac Ready, seems very open and just ready to go.
No bullshit.
Yeah, when this whole thing starts going. Because he's really the one that sets everything in motion. He becomes the main leader of the group.
And he's just the pilot.
And yeah, he really has no governmental bearing on how the operation occurs, but
you don't really know. We don't even really know who is kind of in. Like, if there is, I don't think there really is anyone designated.
I guess I would say the one that probably has the most authority, maybe Childs, has the most authority.
No, because he's just the fucking guy that totes around like the flamethrower.
I don't know, but it seems like he has an authority figure.
I would figure like the doctor.
Yeah, maybe. The doctor does seem... I would say Blair. Probably Blair as the doctor is probably maybe leading the research. But it is interesting how, like, ready McCready is to just go to town on whatever's happening. And that's the funny thing is that he doesn't really... There's no, like, thinking twice. There's no, like, sitting down and contemplating, like, what am I saying? There's a fucking alien species that...
He's just like, I don't fucking know. Like, yeah, this is what apparently it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, because if you think about it...
Which you can totally see Kurt Russell doing, too. Just being like, look, we saw a spaceship, for God's sake. I don't know what the fuck you want from us.
Right, exactly.
Kind of hard to process.
You saw a spaceship, you saw a giant ice block that apparently had something in it unearthed at the Norwegian compound. I don't know. You saw tentacles and shit popping out of a dog. I don't know. Fucking burn it. But I do love that, though, because there's no time to waste on, you know, in some other films you'd have characters who just sit around thinking like, no, wait. No, they can't be. I don't believe it. I can't. No. McCrady's just like take it at face value and do whatever the fuck you have to do to survive. And I think that's what makes McCrady as a character one of those guys that you really root for, because he's kind of an everyman character, and he's kind of an audience fill-in too, because he doesn't really know what's going on, but he's one of those people who would be in the audience saying like, don't fucking go into the basement. Don't make that stupid decision. Just do what you got to do and do whatever you need to survive. He does that. That's his character in a nutshell, of being that person who's like, take no prisoners.
So he's just being Snake Plissken.
Yeah, basically. Exactly.
Escape from Antarctica.
Right. It's like, take Snake Plissken. Now he's been reassigned to Antarctica. He brought a couple of gang members with him from New York. And now they're working on an Antarctic base. And now they're dealing with, supernatural science fiction aliens from outer space that have crash landed 10,000 years ago, and they've hibernated in the ice. What do you think about the whole, like, alien element to it with the spaceships that are very... The spaceship, I feel, is a very generic part of, like, aliens. Like, it's not like an alien spaceship that you would see in Alien, It's more of a very generic 50s
updated
saucer UFO thing.
No, I like that.
You like that? Yeah.
It's like a nice call, but I love the opening of the fact you see the UFO crashing into Earth, and then the thing as the intro, and as you described the effect of how they achieved, the
special effect of actually, it's a very practical, effective.
It's great. It looks awesome. It's amazing. It's like, this is going to be a good film. It's kind of like in the original Halloween, how with the pumpkin and the slow, panning out, and just slowly and slow. It's great. It works well. It's totally it's minimalistic.
Yeah, and the thing is too that it's actually not minimalistic, because it actually took a lot of work to do the thing. The peeling of the letters, practically peeling off as an effect. But it is, as it plays out, it seems very practical
and minimalistic.
Yeah,
but it looks great. It looks it hooks you right in, I'd say.
I think it's a good example of what's to come too for the special effects, because they're all very
top notch,
realistic and practical. Of something that you would not expect,
you wouldn't get today.
No. I mean, there are a couple films that obviously emulate trying to do those special effects, and they don't even come close to the range that the thing has. Still, watching it today, it astounds me some of the things that they actually achieve for special effects. Because one scene in particular that stands out to me is that first kennel scene that you see with the dog, because the dog's face is looks like the real dog's face, and then all of a sudden it splits open into the thing's tentacles and like the fake dog snout that's in. And it's amazing to me because it looks so real that it's like originally the real dog splitting open into the thing itself. And I think that is something that just really stands out and brings the reality home, because those practical effects they're not CGI effects. They're not easy to just look at and be like, well, that's fake. There is an element of reality to them, even though watching now, obviously, certain things, you can just pick out and say like, well, that's plastic latex or, stuff like that. But even at the same time, as you're watching, you kind of get sucked into the reality of it. And I think that works too because of not only just how good everything looks, but the animation of it all. Because if you're talking about some of the more intricate transformations, like that first kennel scene with the dog transforming, or later on as the thing kind of generates into 3 different like movable parts, there's a lot of moving parts to this whole special effect work. So you got a dog's head, but then you got other things popping out from it that are also moving. Or you have, the body of the thing, which then opens up to reveal another head that pops out of it. It's just very much it's such an intricate process that it kind of is amazing how much they were able to achieve with just practical effects. And that carries over now even. I was amazed at just seeing all of the things that they're able to do with it. And I don't want to attribute the thing's success now just to practical effects, because I think the story itself is just very compelling anyway. But the special effects really help elevate this film from something that would be a really good story to something that's an amazing, piece of art, art in itself. Speaking of that, though, what do you think of the story as a whole? This film is an hour and 48 minutes. We've talked at length in other films about how they really could use some editing. In general, it kind of seems like to us, a post 90-minute film is too long. What do you think about like the hour and 48-minute film here with the storyline?
I mean, it's a very basic storyline, very, bare bones. But that's fine because it's not the overarching plot isn't the main point of the film. It's the themes and then the character interaction and then how they respond to the situation that's at hand. I don't really think, though it is at first like a slow build, like the intro of like the flying helicopter chasing the husky does take quite a while. None of the film feels like it's terribly paced. I think the slow build really helps instill that paranoia of who could possibly be assimilated from the thing. Who is the thing?
And the slow build too is necessary because there's so many characters. There's quite a few characters in here that are situated at the base. So there's that need to kind of establish all of the roles of those characters, and then kind of, I wouldn't say the thing really develops those characters beyond more of a, like what I would say, a two-dimensional aspect to it. But at least we do get their names. You can kind of associate with those people and know a little bit about them. And I think that's probably one of the more important elements of that, developing that at the start and the first part of that story, which is, I would say, a little bit slow, but at least you do get the build of those characters, and you also get to see the base itself. So you get, how big it is, the scale of it, really, I should say, because it's really not that big. And so it's important to establish that scale before you actually have things occur, so that we can revisit those scenes later and then see like how they're blowing up all of the base and leaving really nowhere else to hide for the thing or people who would succumb to, negative 40-degree temperatures in the Antarctic. So I think all of that at the beginning of the film is really important, just to establish the reality of the situation, make sure that they are developing characters as much as they can for a, film with so many characters that it does have. And then really establish McCready as a main character as well, because at the beginning, he's part of the rescue mission for the dog, but it's not really clear at first who the main character of the film is. So definitely having to establish McCready as the main leader of the group is something that they have to do in the thing as well. I think that probably, I think an hour and 48 minutes is pretty, I don't know. I think it's a good running time. I don't think that it really overstays its welcome. And as you get into the film itself, I think it really sucks you in. So I don't think that once you get probably past the first 20 minutes, the rest of the film kind of just moves, and you don't really think about how long it is or how long it's taking to get through it. Even though John Carpenter's pace, I would say, is pretty languid. It doesn't, it does use a couple of key elements like bridging certain scenes with the thing's murders or whatever you want to call them, transformations. He does bridge the exposition gap with those scenes, but for the most part, it kind of moves organically as you would expect. They figure out that there's something among them. They decide to, try to track it down, and then the processes for figuring out how to decipher who is the thing and who's not. I think that all comes out within the first 20 minutes, and then once you're through that, you really can kind of glide through it. So I think with that, that really sets you up for the paranoia aspect of the film, wherein, after you meet those characters and you kind of get a feel for them, you see how over time these characters are beginning to distrust each other. Really a main element of the film is that, they're working in such close proximity, and they realize that this thing is kind of contagious. That element of paranoia and being so close together really comes out and creates the horror of the film, even more so than like the realistic special effects that it has.
Yeah, and I really do enjoy the whole dynamic that's created amongst the characters as they try to sort out who possibly could have been infected and how they're going to kind of deal with that. And, the eventual different types of tests they think of how to try to prove who, if someone's become the thing or not. I think it's all really cool and inventive. I also, too, really like when they go to the Norwegian base to see what happened there. And you see the burned, disfigured, mangled bodies that look, human, but they're very, deformed and twisted in a way, and melded too in a way that it's like, how would that be physically possible? What, a lot of intrigue, like from that alone is, the scene of McReady and a couple of the others and the team there going to the Norwegian base and seeing that kind of really spark like your interest, like, oh, so what is going on?
Yeah, and Carpenter kind of like he hides it a bit because you don't really get a good glimpse of the bodies that are burned. You kind of get a glimpse from like,
well, they bring them back to the base.
Yeah, but at first, like when you're at the base itself, when you're at the Norwegian base, you kind of just see like the weird deformities of their legs or their limbs, and you see a little bit of the burnedness, and that kind of piques your interest because you're like, well, it doesn't really look human to me. Like what actually happened to it? And I think, again, that's just another area of setting things up, because Carpenter does a lot of setting up at the beginning of the film, almost to the point where if you're not patient, you might check out. You might be like, well, it's kind of running a little long. I don't know really what's going on with this. But sticking with it really gives you a lot to work with because of all of the characters that you have and the paranoia that brings to this base that they're trying to figure out, who is actually the thing and who's not. And it brings up some really ingenious methods of figuring out who is the thing. Like, and it creates probably one of the most compelling scenes in the film where McCready's testing all of their blood. That's probably one of the most well-known moments of the thing because it does have that element of surprise to it because you really don't know what to expect as he's testing the blood. Is he just going to burn blood and what's going to happen with it? Because we don't really know how the thing operates at that point. He's telling us that the thing is kind of like a singularity and it knows when other parts of it are in pain, but we really don't know what that entails or how that works. And the biggest surprise there...
Well, it's more that certain aspects of if a thing assimilates and like certain aspects are taken away from that, it becomes its own entity, its own animal, its own thing. So his thought process, if you take some blood, and now that it's separate from the thing itself, it's become its own entity, and therefore,
It'll react.
React and try to survive. Whereas if you just cut me or cut you, we're just cutting tissue. So we'll wince in pain, but the blood's not gonna react. It's not gonna try to, survive like we would try to survive if somebody was trying to cut you.
Yeah, I think it's an ingenious method, and it really sets up a compelling moment where you're testing, and this is where Carpenter excels, because he's not really waiting on this blood test to, have it obviously be the last person that he tests. It actually occurs right in the middle of testing. It's something that you would just not expect, because it happens, one person's not the thing. It's clearly...
I almost think, though, too, McReady knew.
Yeah, it could be.
Just because the way he's kind of portraying the film, and, the fact that he's, like, no nonsense, no bullshit, and kind of, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. I almost have a feeling, like, he has inklings already on, like, who's probably been infected and assimilated.
Right, yeah.
With that, I think, going into that, I think he knew one or two, like, he already had, in his head,
an idea.
Which one of them we do know, because I can't remember his name, but he's mainly the security guard of the facility. He says he's saving him for last, because he thinks he's
right,
been assimilated. But I also think at the same time too, even though his, like, they frame it in a way because his, flamethrower is not working and gets, another member killed when the thing does show itself in that scene, I do think he kind of had he kind of had something going on.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because it does set up some interesting elements of, like, distrust and how do you really know if you're even the thing? Because you see, like, a lot of people getting their blood tested, and they're kind of nervous. Like, they're nervous to even have their blood tested because they're not sure, like, will it react? And that sets up an interesting, like, existential element too of, like, would you even know? Like, would you know if you're not really yourself at that point?
I think you would.
But I think one of the most, the telling moment is when Windows has his blood tested, because he's almost holding his breath and then exhales when it doesn't do anything, as though, like, he was really not sure if it would actually react. And there's that whole, like, existential element of being like, well, maybe I am infected and I don't know it. That's kind of interesting too.
Like an early stage, and you have
exactly, like, you're not really sure, because they do have that at one time too, where the one guy kind of reacts, and I don't even remember his name, but he's one of the guys that would have had I think actually McCready gives him, like, a duty, and he reacts with, like, stomach pain, as though he really didn't know that he was infected until almost alien, like, it left, like, an embryo or something in him. Which is kind of interesting, because we don't really, besides that scene, we don't really see anybody else becoming infected and then getting sort of a sickness from it. They're really just infected as we see them, or they're a dead body that becomes, infected with the thing and then starts to do its process change. But I thought that was pretty interesting how, some people may not know that they're infected, and they're, like, kind of holding their breath, like, well, maybe I will be infected and I don't even know it, and then what'll happen to me?
I think that just fits the whole paranoia theme. So, like,
yeah,
because again, by the time the thing is roaming around, nobody's in their right mind. Everybody's, so I think even, I don't know, I still kind of have a hard time if the thing assimilated into you, you wouldn't know that you were assimilated. I think, the thing's assimilated into you.
Yeah,
so it would, obviously, because it's the thing, it would know it's the thing, and it's trying for its survival. I think it's more just people are paranoid, and they think, again, like, I think it's more just like they think maybe they could be.
Right, yeah.
But again, it's a red herring. They're not really, but it's just that, like, because they don't really understand and know how this alien creature works. And
yeah, no, that's how I imagine it. Is not that they really would be infected, but that they are concerned that they might be because they don't know how it works. So it adds an even more, a bigger element of paranoia that you don't even know if you can trust yourself. You don't even know if you can trust your body because you could possibly be infected with it and you don't know. Which I think is pretty scary. I mean, that's a scary element that you don't really know if you have control over yourself. And that's something that does bother people. And I think something that, again, comes out with what we were talking about previously, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There is one scene where one of the characters is in the process of turning into the thing, and you can see that he has the same body type, except his hand is turned into like a thing like claw, veiny claw, and he lets out this scream that's direct from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It does seem sort of like an homage to Invasion of the Body Snatchers in that sense. But I think that it does come from that sense of like, there's always the possibility that you can be corrupted, that you can, you wouldn't know it, but you're being corrupted into being a thing or a body snatcher. It's pretty interesting stuff. And I think that's really where the thing's most compelling elements lie, is in, the paranoia of it all. But it does have a lot of fun scenes too. Like the one guy that insists on roller skating around the whole compound.
The cook, yeah.
Who you said, hasn't really learned yet because they've been in Antarctica that the 70s are over.
I know, it's 82 and like, oh, roller disco's still a thing. It's like, no, that died.
Stevie Wonder and roller disco.
Yeah, that died pretty quick.
Unfortunately, yeah, they haven't gotten a memo or anything, so he's going to come back to the America and just be roller skating around, and people are going to be like, what are you doing?
That died a long time.
I know, and he's like, oh, I've been practicing on a bass for 4 years. I can't believe that it's over with already.
I like Kurt Russell losing in chess to his computer, and he opens up the circuits and dumps his scotch into it. Like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, that as an opening scene, like that's immediately you're like, do I want to root for this guy? He just basically destroyed an entire computer system that everybody else could use.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't his personal, because he gets his own little shack, but
true.
But even still, like, no, you're right.
I can't imagine how expensive that would have been at the time.
Let's say, but then again, you think about it too. Kurt Russell. How often is Kurt Russell like the likable, like overly likable? He's very.
Yeah, for the most part, he's standoffish.
Yeah.
He's more of a character that you're hesitant to like.
You like him, but yeah, it's like, I shouldn't like him.
Yeah.
And it's not just in this film. It's like in all of this, like, in the Snake Plissken or, in Tombstone. He's always very much kind of, especially in Big Trouble in Little China. He's, cowering, whiny bitch, but he's like, oh, God, I can't help but root for him. He's just...
Yeah, I mean, I think in here, he's more so the gruff, standoffish guy who you're like, I don't know if I like him, but I respect him.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably how the crew feels too. It's like, well, he's kind of an asshole,
but he takes no shit.
Yeah. But he's getting stuff done, so we'll follow him. Yeah, I think that probably.
Well, at the same time, his leadership is very tentative. Like when the thing starts attacking, they're very quick to be like, well, why the fuck are you leading? You very well could be the thing too, and gets, thrown under the bus, locked out, and, basically tries, they try to kill him because they think he's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it shows, like, how smart he is, though, because, like, he immediately goes to the dynamite.
And he's like, we'll all die. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. We'll all die. And at that point, you realize that he understands the scope of what's happening. Like, we can't allow this to leave.
But at the same time, going back to that kind of thing, like the thing could be that smart and be that
True.
So, you could almost argue like maybe he is the thing, and like he's smart, and like, well, they'll never,
Yeah.
They won't think, I'm the one, running around. If I'm the one, like, I'm going to blow this place up.
I think the best idea from John Carpenter was that you really you literally have no way of knowing. There's no like markings. There's no like, if I examine this person enough, I'll see that they're the thing. Nope. It's literally, if the thing has had enough time to assimilate and copy the cells of the host, then you will not know who the thing is. But that does open up a good question of whether the thing can actually copy like memory, which you mentioned during the film, because in some ways it does seem like the thing does copy memory, but we don't know how much the thing is actually kind of just listening at first and taking in
the information
that it's hearing, and then being able to replicate
or if it's able to, memorize, be ingrained with those memories or not. I think it's a little.
Yeah, it's difficult to say too, because if it doesn't, which scientifically, if it replicates cells, it would not be able to replicate your memory per se. If that's the case, then the thing is very advanced, because it can learn not only basic dialogue, but also the English language very quickly. However, I think that's probably the most believable instance of it, because otherwise there's a whole element of memory that we, as purveyors of science, we don't really understand, because it can copy memory, and that's not something that we really have ever encountered previously. So it's just an interesting element of the thing that it can easily assimilate into humanity without ever having really been a part of it. And again, I think that does have something to do with singularity too, because the thing seems to have a singularity with all of its pieces. Even though this is the first time the thing has been at the American base, it probably has assimilated at the Norwegian base, but we never hear it speak Norwegian. So it's complicated scientific discovery for sure, which probably would win the Nobel Prize, as one of the characters remarks in the film.
I don't think you would get that far.
No, I don't think so either. I think once you got back to America,
or whatever,
okay,
now you're locked up for the rest of
Yep, you're
quarantined.
You're fucked. Yep.
This info ain't going nowhere.
No, I agree. We haven't talked about Ennio Morricone's soundtrack.
Holds back.
It's definitely one of Ennio Morricone's most minimal soundtracks, for sure, because he's mostly well known for spaghetti westerns, other Italian films, in some giallo films, with more of a, I would say, pretty Italian soundtrack, which they're more enunciated, they're more dynamic. And for The Thing, this film has a very minimal soundtrack. It's almost basically just a synth drone at some points, and not what you would mostly expect from an Ennio Morricone score. What do you think about that for Ennio Morricone?
I like it. I think for the synth stuff, he probably got cues from John Carpenter, like kind of where to go with it. Like, not like John wrote it, but he's like, this is kind of what I want, or expect.
Yeah.
Because you're right. The synth score is very much a drone, which I do think fits the film very well, because it's very just like, like almost like a heartbeat, just, slowly kind of building and pulsating in certain key moments throughout the film, while the rest of the film uses more of a classical score, but it's very understated, muted, not, bombastic in any way, and it fits, the tone and the scene of the films.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like Ennio Morricone was emulating John Carpenter's score at that point. And it does seem like he had a lot of influence. Carpenter had a lot of influence on Ennio Morricone as to what he wanted for the score. I think the drone works really well. Like even in the opening scene where we talk about, or not the opening scene, our opening credit sequence, where the McCready's delivering his dialogue to a tape so that he has it on file. There's just like a subtle drone to that actually sets the mood quite well, because it just shows the sinister aspect of what's happening, but a very minimal way. And that reoccurs too at the end of the film, as you have McCready and Childs just sitting down and just, waiting for the end. You have a very minimal synth score there to punctuate like how dark and down this actual scene is of basically they realize that they can't get off this base. They're stuck there and they just have to wait for the end. That's inevitable. It's a very dark and I would say dreary score. And I think it works really well, because to have Morricone really come out with something like, a choir choral track, the horns and trombones and things like that he's known for more of his spaghetti Western style, would really be out of place within the thing. So to have more of I would say it's really what you would consider a cold, droning synth score, which works really well to mimic the atmosphere.
Kind of makes me wonder why John Carpenter just didn't do the score himself.
Yeah, it's I don't know why exactly. Maybe The Thing as a director took up more of his time, and so there really wasn't much of a chance for him to do the score specifically. I'm not really sure. Why? Maybe John was just like, idolized Ennio Morricone, and he wanted him to have it on the soundtrack. I don't really know, but you're right. In most aspects of this could have been a John Carpenter score. And
just minus the classical parts and fill in with, synths.
Yeah. And you wouldn't really have noticed a difference. So, but I think Morricone does a good job anyway. And seeing John Carpenter perform this live, you really get the feel for the sinister aspect of the soundtrack, highlighting the darker moments. Speaking of the ending, what do you think of the ending? Because the ending really leaves things open-ended. There's still that aspect of not really knowing who is the thing, if the thing has really been eliminated or if it's still out there. And how do you feel about it? Is the ending like a darker ending? Is it?
Oh, it's a dark ending. It's a pretty dark ending.
I think
because whether the thing's destroyed or not, whether or not the thing's destroyed or not at the end, and the ending is just McCready and Childs, they're dead. So whether or not it's dead or not, whether or not either one of them have been assimilated, they're dead. So even at the end of the day, if it's like, hey, we defeated the thing, all right, they're dead. Yeah. If one of them is the thing, they're dead because the other one's going to die. It's going to be they will be killed by the thing. Yeah. If they're both the thing, then eventually they'll be able to,
whenever the rescue party gets there.
Fuck the rescue party, and then they'll be dead. So it's it's a no-win scenario all the way around. Either way, it's not a happy ending, and I like that. I like the fact that it's such a bleak, miserable, just down in the dumps ending. The fact that after all of this, they're fucked. Granted, even going into the final fight with the thing, McCready tells like the ones that he's fighting with, we're dead. We're either way, no matter what, we're going to die. So if we're going to die, let's at least fucking kill this thing and try to at least save the Earth.
So how do you like to interpret the ending? Because there's a lot of open-ended aspects of the ending that you can interpret it many different ways.
I mean, I think at the end, honestly, I think at the end Childs has been infected. I don't think McCready's infected because we spend so much time with McCready. There's no real instance where he could have been infected.
The only time I would say is when we don't really see him, and he comes and they don't want to let him in.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only time where I could see the film getting away with, like, we're not with him, so he could have been infected at that time.
But at the same time, like, what was out there that would have infected him?
Right, exactly.
Because the thing at the time, as we know, was assimilated with one of the...
And his motivation at that point would not be to, like, blow up every other part of the thing. So it seems really far-fetched to believe that...
Well, like I said, at the same time, we don't really... The measuring the thing's intelligence, once it's assimilated, we don't really know. So it very well could have the intelligence, like, maybe if I, say I'm going to do this, then they'd be like, oh, it's not the thing. So, I mean, that you kind of have to argue in your head how, the intelligence of the thing, once it's fully assimilated into a person. But I think, because we spend so much time with McGreedy, I don't think he's the thing at the end. I think, however, because Childs disappears at the end, when he comes back at the end, he has a very different tone of voice in the way he's talking. And you could argue maybe it's due to exhaustion of wandering out in the fucking cold for, half an hour, essentially. The freezing Antarctic cold, and he's exhausted, tired, and he's not, as hot-headed and pissy as he usually is. But I just think, too, because at the end, when the two are talking, we see McGreedy's, as other people throughout, since this film has come out, have pointed out, you see McGreedy's breath, the vapor just freezing instantly when he talks, and except for like one spot, when Childs is talking, you don't see it. And I almost want to say that's more due to, like, a continuity error, because what would be the point of, like, having it filmed in such a way where you can't really see Keith David's, vapor freezing from his mouth if you're trying to hint at something.
Right.
So to me, that only comes across as maybe like a continuity error. So I think by the end, he's infected. That's just me. But at the end of the day, like I said, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a bleak, dark ending. Everybody's fucked. Whether McGreedy's the thing, Childs is the thing, or they're not the thing. They're dead.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that it matters is that the thing lives on.
And not only that, the paranoia is still there.
Right.
Unfortunately, the ending of our episode did not record. However, I can sum it up for you. Martin gave The Thing 10 out of 10, and I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. We both agree that it's really a great film. Martin probably more than me, just because he enjoys all of the paranoia of it and the atmosphere. I agree with that. I think Halloween just tops it just a little bit for me, but I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Our next episode is going to be The Room, followed by The Disaster Artist. So that will be in the next 2 weeks for The Room, and then 2 weeks after that for The Disaster Artist, because we are on a bi-weekly schedule. You can catch us on iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean, or any other podcasting app. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We have a Twitter account at Blood and Black Rum. And we also have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com, where you can let us know what you want us to cover on the show. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Blood and Black Rum Podcast. And that's where you can donate to us. That donation is monthly. So just just to make sure that you don't donate too much, because I don't want you to go over your spending limit. However, anything that you can give back to our show will help us in the long run by keeping this podcast going. So thank you for whatever you can donate. So tune in next week, or in 2 weeks, for The Room. And thank you for listening. We hope to give you 100 more episodes of Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Take care.